Travis Kelce showing up at the iHeartRadio Music Awards shouldn't matter to the Kansas City Chiefs, but it does, because this isn't just about visibility, celebrity, or even support for Taylor Swift. It's about timing. It's about focus. And more than anything, it's about how a veteran superstar manages pressure at the exact moment his football reality is starting to shift. Let's set the context. Travis Kelce signs a new deal. 3 years, over $50 million. But structurally, it's short term. The Kansas City Chiefs are coming off a 6-11 season, no playoffs, a 6-game losing streak to end the year. That's not just a bad stretch, that's a break in identity. And Kelce, even at this stage, remains central to how this team operates. At the same time, he steps into a completely different spotlight, supporting Swift at a major awards show days after securing his contract. On the surface, it's personal, but in the NFL, timing turns everything into football. The obvious narrative is easy. Kelce is a veteran. He's earned the right to live his life. He's supporting his partner. And after over a decade of elite production, a single off-season appearance doesn't impact performance. That's fair. That's logical. And for most players, that would be the end of the conversation. But Kelce isn't most players. He's not just part of the system. He is the system, especially in critical situations. Third down, red zone, broken plays. When structure fails, Patrick Mahomes doesn't look for a concept. He looks for Kelce. And that level of trust requires constant recalibration, reps, timing, shared instinct. It doesn't just carry over automatically from one season to the next, especially not after a year where the entire offense struggled. So now the situation becomes more complex because Kelce is balancing two timelines, a personal one, high visibility, major life events, public attention, and a football one, aging curve, declining team performance, and a system that still depends heavily on him. Those timelines don't always align cleanly. Clipping moment number 1. At this stage of his career, Kelce isn't managing fame, he's managing timing. Let's go deeper. Kelce's 2025 numbers were still strong, but they weren't dominant. And more importantly, the offense around him showed cracks. Spacing wasn't as clean, timing wasn't as sharp. And when pressure came, the answers weren't as automatic. That matters. Because for years, the Chiefs' advantage was clarity under pressure. Now, that clarity is starting to blur. And that's where off-field dynamics subtly enter the picture, not as distractions, but as variables. Because elite performance at this level isn't just physical. It's obsessive, detail-oriented, repetition-driven, constant adjustment. The margin for error gets smaller with age, which means the margin for focus has to get tighter. Now here's the hidden factor. Kelce didn't walk the red carpet. He stayed out of the spotlight. That's not random. That's controlled exposure. And it tells you something important. He understands the narrative, he understands perception, and he's managing it. Clipping moment number 2. This wasn't a celebrity moment. It was a controlled decision about visibility. Because right now, Kelce doesn't need more attention. He needs stability. He needs rhythm. He needs to reestablish the connection that made this offense elite. And that doesn't happen in public. It happens in repetition. Now, let's identify the turning point. It's not the contract. It's not the appearance. It's what happens when the season starts. Because if Kelce comes out sharp, crisp routes, quick separation, immediate chemistry with Mahomes, then everything we're discussing disappears. But if there's hesitation, if timing is off, if Mahomes starts looking elsewhere in key moments, that's when the shift becomes real. Clipping moment number 3. The moment Mahomes hesitates before throwing to Kelce, that's when everything changes. And that's the real pressure point. Not media attention, not public perception, execution under stress. Because in the NFL, especially at this level, reputation doesn't carry plays. Timing does. Now zoom out to the big picture. Kelce returning isn't just about extending his career, it's about preserving a window. The Chiefs aren't rebuilding, they're recalibrating. And that recalibration depends heavily on whether Kelce can still function as the central processor in the offense. Not just a target, but a translator between play design and real-time execution. There's also a succession layer. The Chiefs are already exploring future options at tight end, not to replace Kelce immediately, but to prepare for the transition. And that creates subtle pressure, because once that process starts, the clock becomes visible. So Kelsey's role now is different. He's not just producing, he's bridging eras, maintaining elite performance while the next version of the offense begins to form behind him. That's one of the hardest roles in sports. In the end, Kelsey supporting Taylor Swift isn't the story. It's the backdrop. The real story is how a veteran superstar navigates the narrow space between legacy and decline, between public visibility and private preparation, between who he's been and what the team still needs him to be. Because the Chiefs don't need Kelce to be great. They need him to be precise, reliable, unquestioned in the biggest moments, and in a season where everything already feels less certain. That's where the pressure really lives. This wasn't just a date night, it was a statement. Because just days after locking in a $54.7 million deal, Travis Kelce didn't show up at a football facility. He showed up in Hollywood, at the iHeartRadio Music Awards, sitting next to Taylor Swift. Not on the red carpet, not in front of cameras, but right there when it mattered. And that contrast, that's the story. Because on the field, this has been one of the most uncertain stretches of Kelce's career. The Kansas City Chiefs just came off a collapse. 6 straight losses, a 6-11 finish, no playoffs. That doesn't happen in Kansas City. Not with Kelce, not with this era. For the first time in over a decade, the dominance cracked, and for a moment, it looked like Kelce might walk away from it. Retirement wasn't just a rumor, it was real, a decision he had to sit with. 14 seasons, championships, records, legacy already secured. He didn't need to come back, but then he did. 3 years, $54.7 million. Another commitment, not just to the team, but to chasing something that slipped away. And that's where the turning point hits. Because instead of immediately diving back into football mode, Kelce stepped into a different spotlight. One he's been living in more and more over the past few years with Swift, 9 nominations, massive presence, one of the biggest nights in music, and Kelce is there, part of it, but not fully in it. He skips the red carpet, stays out of the flash, but inside, he's present, supporting, visible in a different way. That balance matters because it tells you something about where Kelce is right now. Not distracted, but evolving. He's no longer just a football player grinding through the offseason. He's a global figure navigating 2 worlds at once, the grind of the National Football League and the spotlight of global celebrity. And that creates pressure. Because when the season starts, none of this matters if the production drops. Last year, the numbers were still solid. 76 catches, 851 yards, 5 touchdowns. But for Kelce, that's not dominance. That's decline, or at least the perception of it. And now, with a new contract in place, the expectations reset. Again, because the Chiefs didn't pay him for what he did. They paid him for what they believe he can still do, which makes every moment like this more meaningful. Because it raises the question, how much does he have left? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. Because coming back is one thing. Coming back hungry is another. And that's what will define this next chapter. Not the contract, not the spotlight, not even the relationship. Just one thing. Whether Travis Kelce can still be the player the Chiefs built everything around when they need him the most.